So it's time to change a nozzle. I had printed something earlier on my printer and I had noticed a slight clog. I call them partial clogs because material is still coming out, but not at the flow rate that it needs to. So the first thing I usually do if I see a model fail is I will try the needle or the cold pull to see if I can clear the clog. And then once I've done that, I'll print something small such as this benchy. This was my test piece after the model had failed and after I had tried my clean. Well, it did not survive. So this needs a whole new nozzle. So today we are working on a Bambu P series. It doesn't matter if it's the P1S or the P1P, they are the same. And this change will work for either one. If you have an X series, they are a little different. So an X series, this is what they call the full assembly. An X series has a fan with a dedicated wire. And then it has, underneath the sock, there is a heat plate and a thermistor. And then the X series has 3 plugs that plug in 3 different locations on the board, where the P series has 2 dedicated plugs because it combines the thermistor and the heater block into the same plug. So other than the 2 plugs, they are almost identical. So when I buy them, I only buy the nozzle. It doesn't matter if it's a P or an X series, they are interchangeable, and I rebuild them on my desk according to what I need. So this is a hardened 0.4. I've pretty much only used the hardened series now. I think it's negligible on the cost, but they do tend to last a lot longer. So today this is what we're going to change out. So the first thing that you need to do is turn your machine off. Power switch at the very back, and I gently, whenever the machine is off, will pull the head right into the middle of the build plate. It can be gently pushed back or pulled forward. So I just center it just so that I have more room to work. I don't need this on here anymore. Add that to my failed collection. So the front cover is magnetic, just a light little pull. There is a harness that goes to it. This powers the fan. For the video, I'm going to just unplug it. Now remember, the wire orientation, just so you don't accidentally plug it in incorrectly. You can see the wires go into the bottom of this plug, and it is the very top plug. Quick and easy. So whenever you do go to plug it back in, it keeps you from accidentally transposing it. The cover can now just be set to the side. Now while you're in here, it's always good to kind of look and see if you do see any debris or remnants. And if I'm changing a nozzle, about every other nozzle change, I will also change the cutter. And it makes it a little bit easier to get it out of the way. So your kit comes with 2 hex head keys, a small one and a long one. So I'm going to go ahead and get the cutter out of the way. And this is not 100% necessary, but I like doing it just because it gets it out of the way. So this screw is very tight whenever you try to turn it, so because it is literally laying against the case. So a little bit of pressure, not much, you don't have to depress it all the way, but just a little bit of pressure, and unthread the screw, and it'll actually turn very easily. You don't have to take the screw all the way out. It is just protruding just enough to keep the cutter from coming all the way out. That's not far enough. Do a little bit more, and there it is. Just a little bit, and you'll see that the cutter is now out of the way. So you can easily pop these guys off. It just clicks towards the end of the arm, and it comes off. And then these are also just a wear part. So, I don't know, every other nozzle change, I'll place one on there. Just make sure I get all of the debris out of there, because like I said, it is got small pieces of plastic in there that I don't want to get and contaminate. All right, so with the cutter removed, the nozzle uses the larger size of the hex head, so I'm going to have it ready. And then there are 2 plugs. 1, 2, right here. Again, the orientation of the wires are always down. So just a light little pop with the finger. It doesn't take much pressure and it comes off. And then the one right below it. Now, there is a small plastic retainer here. It's just a little hook that the wires are kind of tucked around, and it kind of keeps them secure through all the motion. Just a light little bend around them, little snake, and now the wires are completely free. And the only thing holding this nozzle in now are those 2 hex head screws. So I am now going to put down a small paper towel just to catch anything that may come out debris wise, and it'll also give me something to sit my nozzle on once I take it off. So, forgive my hands being in the way. I'm going to turn it until I feel it lightly click. That just lets me know that there are no more threads. Lightly turning this guy right here. So these 2 screws all the way, and then whenever I feel a little click, I know that we have maxed out the threads. Tool, I'm going to put it to the side. I pull these bolts out. There's one. Now these guys have a long shelf on them, the hex head. If you're worried about them backing off, usually new nozzles come with new bolts. I've never had to change them, but if you feel like you need to, your kit does come with them. So now we have a completely free nozzle. Our wires are out of the way. I'll usually grab it by the silicone sock and lightly go left and right as I'm pulling downward. And that's it. And we can see a lot of debris in there. Ooh, it's angry. All right, so we're gonna set this to the side, and I'm gonna rebuild this one on another video showing you guys the easiest way to put this together. So here is our brand new unit. Now, be advised, this fan is very fragile. Do not pinch, do not grab, do not pick it up and squeeze it by the fan. You can tear up the little motor in there. So just handle it by the sides. So the fan goes to the right hand side of the printer, opposite the side of the chute. And then you have your 2 harnesses with your 2 plugs. So just oriented like this. Now, right here, right where my index finger is, and you can feel it, it's hard to see with the camera, but there is a small groove here because this fan is actually going to come up and touch here. So they have a small channel here that allows these wires to safely go without getting pinched. So make sure that your wires are not out here forward of it. We want to make sure that they go into that little groove. So I'm just lightly massaging it back and forth as I go upward into it and trying to make sure that my wires lightly tuck into that small little groove. It is a tense little fit, so it's not going to just fall out. And you can see that the wires are right in that little groove just fine. Now the screws are sometimes tricky to start. So make sure to look into each one of these holes. If the screw doesn't easily push in, you may have to push up and lightly wiggle back and forth, and it will push in quite far. There's only maybe 5 millimeters of the screw sticking out now. And you'll feel it come to a nice little stop. And then I get my Allen key, my larger Allen key, and I'll spin each screw until it comes to a complete stop, but I do not tighten it. I am now at the bottom of the threads on the right screw. And then I'm at the bottom of the threads on the left screw. So now I'm going to just do 1/8 of a turn, just a little bit, just to snug it. It doesn't have to be very tight. And now our nozzle is completely installed minus our 2 plugs. So these are really, really easy to not mix up. One has a set of shorter wires, one has a set of longer wires. So the shorter wire, the plug, that is what goes into the closer plug here. And then the set of longer wires goes into the middle plug here, with our wires still pointing downward. So I'm going to lightly fish these wires behind this clip here, and it's normally pretty fun. But what this does is it keeps those wires from shaking all over the place, because you know how fast these printers move. And if you give those wires too much slack, it could cause itself to unplug itself because of it swinging back and forth like a whiplash. So I've got this guy homed. I'm going to center it up right over the plug, and it is you have to lightly feel it. It is a light little click. It is you can almost barely feel it if you're not really paying attention looking for it. So don't push in too hard. I'm going to do the same thing for this smaller harness. Try not to block too much of the camera view. Tucked it in right here, and then it popped back out. I can push it in later. Let's center it up with the middle plug. I feel my little click, and then I tuck its wires in on the wire retention clip. So now we have both of our plugs in, and now I'm going to put in a new cutting blade, because that other one has seen many miles of filament. So this thing, careful not to push by the blade and cut yourself. So I get it seated, and then I'm going to just push it to the side. A nice little click. Now there is a perfect rectangle pocket, and if you're looking for it, it is just above your black screws here, just lightly above. So you'll guide this in, make sure that it moves nice and smoothly in there. Now I'm going to grab my small Allen key. Now remember, this isn't actually tightening anything. The only thing this screw does is goes past this arm. The screw head goes, or sorry, the end of the screw goes past the arm just enough to catch the case. That's all it's doing. So we're not actually tightening or loosening anything. We're giving it a stop. So I lightly push in pressure again so that I know that it's on the inside of the case, and I just lightly spin it. I felt a little stop. Whenever I let it go, it's where it needs to be. The only thing left to do is to put the front cover on. And again, we'll make sure that we don't have any extra debris or anything else like that, because that is one of the fans. Try not to handle the fan, because like I said, if you push too hard in there, you can smoke these little fans. But this one is relatively easy to get to. So let's see here. Wires going down. Line this guy up. Little push. And then we're all plugged in. All 3 plugs. And then the magnetic cover. Make sure that it's nice and seated. That line should almost disappear. So everything is good. Now remember, if you have changed your nozzle type, if you are running a P series, and this is your first time changing a nozzle, and you have changed it to a hardened series nozzle, after you turn your machine on, you can either go to the settings in your phone or to the settings on the screen and make sure to tell it that it has a hardened steel nozzle, even if you're using the same size. And the reason is they heat up at different temperatures, and they cool down at different rates. So a stainless steel nozzle may retain or not retain heat as well as a hardened nozzle, and all those microscopic adjustments change the print quality. So you want to make sure that you get the most out of your machine. So after everything's done, some people recalibrate, some people don't. All I do is I clean my build plate nice with maybe some isopropyl alcohol, and I'll do another test sprint and inspect it, make sure we have no error messages, and then it's good to go. It may take a little longer to purge. If you're not using an AMS system and you're using a side spooler, there's nothing in here. So you may have to, whenever you load material in, you may have to purge a few extra times to get it to the end of the nozzle, but that is perfectly normal because as of right now, there is no material in the nozzle at all. Well, I hope this has helped you guys, and give me some feedback in the comments. And if you have any other ideas and other videos that you think that you would like to see, just let me know. Well, thank you guys.